Now that the regular college football season has concluded, we've got conference championship games to look forward to, college football playoff rankings, college football playoff games, bowl games, and also the Heisman Trophy. So through 12 games, where does Jayden Daniels stand in the Heisman Trophy race?
You are Locked On LSU, your daily podcast on the LSU Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, y'all? Happy Tuesday and welcome into Locked On LSU. Of course, we are part of the Locked On Network, your team every single day. And as we do today and every single day on the podcast, I always appreciate you for making Locked On LSU your first listen every single day. Today on the podcast, we are brought to you by FanDuel. Today's episode, of course, brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That is $150 if your team wins. So visit FanDuel.com/locked on to get started. Now let's get into it because I have a little, post-regular season depression. I don't know if you guys feel the same way, but even though we have conference championship games this weekend, the best has yet to come, truly, when it comes to a college football as a whole conversation. The best has not yet to come for this LSU team and as LSU fans. But it's a little bit, it's just a sad feeling whenever the regular season is behind you. If you don't have college football playoff hopes, of course, it's kind of where we're sitting now, and you have a bowl game to look forward to, a non-year six bowl game to look forward to. It just feels like it's like a little bit of a hangover at the end of the season. Like, how many days until next season? Like, how long do we have to wait until real life LSU important, regular season football? It's sad. It's a sad time as we part ways with the college football regular season. But what we do have to look forward to as LSU fans, even if there's no college football playoff, even if there's no SEC championship game, even if there's likely not a New Year's Six bowl game in this team's future, there's a Heisman Trophy race. There is a Jayden Daniels Heisman campaign that is actively going on. And if you've missed it, and LSU already has put on the full court press of campaigning for Jayden Daniels, whether it's Brian Kelly getting up at the podium and saying he is the best player that I have ever coached, which honestly, I've thought about that. As he said that, I'm like, okay, well, the last Heisman Trophy candidate coach was Manti Te'o, and it's hard to compare as players, quarterback versus a defensive player. Coach Travis Kelce at Cincinnati. But Travis Kelce was no Heisman Trophy contender. So I think when Brian Kelly said that, I don't think that was smoke. I don't think that was just, let's try and get Heisman Trophy voters on board with the Jayden Daniels train. No, I think that Brian Kelly was being serious, because if when Jayden Daniels gets the invite to New York City, that'll only be the second player in Brian Kelly's career that is a Heisman Trophy caliber player. Of course, like I mentioned, that last player was Manti Te'o at Notre Dame. So they're putting the full court press on social media, the billboards that they put up in Michigan. And I believe they have one up in Oregon as well, maybe. I don't know. They tweeted it out. But they're putting the full court press on. And the next chapter in that saga is the docu-series. It's a 4-part series that LSU has put out on lsusports.net/thatkidjayden. I think you can just go to thatkidjayden.com. And it's his journey, an inside look at where he came from, how he got to LSU, what he has done at LSU, what he's done this season, what makes him. It's 4 categories: elite, efficient, explosive, and unprecedented. So really, really cool work that the people over and LSU Football Ops are doing. Some great work by LSU Creative and LSU Media, but putting that out there is just the next chapter in that saga. And I this is no reporting on my end. I believe that there is still a lot that is left to come. That now that the regular season has concluded, it's going to be Jayden Daniels Heisman propaganda. And I say that in the nicest way possible. It's going to be Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas Biletnikoff campaigns. It's going to be 24/7, round the clock campaigning for their guys, as LSU should, as they should. So where do we stand now through 12 games? Well, let's just look at week 13 rather, game 12. That fourth quarter really saved Jayden Daniels. That fourth quarter saved Jayden Daniels in his Heisman campaign because, first and foremost, Jayden Daniels was barely even on the field in the first half because the defense couldn't get off the field. Let's not forget, over a 9-minute A&M drive there that extended from the middle of the first quarter to the beginning of the second quarter, a 17-play drive. When I'm sitting there and I'm looking around thinking, have we seen the LSU offense yet? Like, we're in the second quarter. Have we seen the LSU offense yet? And of course we had, but it just felt like ages and ages and ages where Texas A&M was on the field. It was that 9-minute A&M drive, and then LSU punted, and then A&M got the ball back, and then A&M started the second half with the ball, and it was like, my goodness, this is not the best testament to Jayden Daniels and his quarterbacking if he can't even be on the field. And, they struggled to start the game, punted on 2 out of the 3 first drives of that game against Texas A&M. But then they started to get things started to click. It was the Greg Brooks interception. It was the defensive stops that held Texas A&M to a field goal, and then they missed a field goal, forced A&M to punt. And that really kind of shifted the momentum offensively as well, because there was a shift as a whole, defensively and offensively, in that second half. So let's start from the top. Heisman caliber plays from Jayden Daniels on Saturday night against Texas A&M. I'm going to say Saturday night. It was the afternoon, but whatever. That 50-yard run to set up the touchdown drive to cut A&M's lead 24-21. Now, Jayden Daniels wasn't able to get in the end zone. I do think that if that play ended in a touchdown, that would be a play that you see more widely, maybe on, College Football Live on ESPN, on social media. But since it wasn't a touchdown drive, it probably won't be circulated or pumped up as much as it probably should. But a 50-yard run against that defense, against a top 10 defense in all of college football, to set up that touchdown that started to get the momentum going, that it felt like this LSU team down 24-14 kind of felt very dead in the water. Like, I thought, oh my goodness, they're going to lose this football game. That's when things started to shift. So massive run from Jayden Daniels. I thought that probably was, if you have to pick one Heisman moment on the day, that was it, that 50-yard run. And then also, so you're down 24-21. 23-yard touchdown pass to Brian Thomas. Mwah! Beautifully placed ball. Beautiful catch from Brian Thomas in the end zone. And this is something that I touched on yesterday's podcast. It was a full game reaction, full game breakdown. You can find that on your preferred podcast platform and on the Locked On LSU YouTube page. But I said Jayden Daniels' trust in so many of his receivers is really so impressive that it's not just Jayden Daniels saying, F it, so-and-so is down there somewhere. Because if it's not Brian Thomas, it's Malik Nabers. And if it's not Malik Nabers, it's Chris Hilton. And if it's not Chris Hilton, it's Kyron Lacey, so on and so forth. So we saw beautiful touchdown. Jayden Daniels' 23-yard pass to Brian Thomas to take the lead. Now up 28-24. Now LSU gets the ball back. It's yet another beautiful ball to Malik Nabers, and an incredible catch from Malik Nabers, and an incredible effort from Malik Nabers to get that foot down. That was a 21-yard touchdown pass to Malik Nabers, and what could have been this, when it happened, it just made my stomach tie into knots, and it's something that I'm going to think about, the what ifs moving forward. But what could have been with that 45-yard touchdown catch to Malik Nabers, which of course got called back by the Kyron Lacey holding. What could have been for Malik Nabers, and that could have been for this team, what that could have been for Jayden Daniels. And Kyron Lacey was very visibly upset that he put his team in that position. And it was a stupid holding call. The call wasn't stupid. It was stupid on Kyron Lacey, because once Malik Nabers had already run past that defender, that's when Kyron Lacey got caught for the hold. So I'm thinking, you didn't even have to hold him. It wasn't even a play that was possible because of the hold. So that was the frustrating thing. And also that's what held Malik Nabers back from the all-time receiving yards record at LSU. Now, after that game, he did set the record for the most number of receptions, but he wasn't able to get that most receiving yards record. because of that touchdown that was called back. That was also kind of what Kyron Lacy said made him really upset that he did that to his teammate. But those were the three most notable Heisman caliber plays that I saw from Jayden Daniels on Saturday. And it's something that we as LSU fans cannot take for granted because we see those kinds of things from Jayden Daniels every single week. However, those things aren't normal. Like those things aren't happening to every other quarterback and every other team in this conference or in college football. Those things are spectacular. They just feel ordinary to us because Jayden Daniels and Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas have made the spectacular look ordinary. That's just how freaking good this team and this offense is. But coming up next, it's a two-man race. Jayden Daniels and Bo Nix. Where does the Heisman race now stand through 12 full games? We'll get into that coming up next after a couple of words from our sponsors. All right, I want to tell you about FanDuel. As the weather gets colder, the NFL offers stay hot on FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. That's right, $150 if your team wins. So if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there is no better time to get in on the action. And the app is so easy to use. That's one of my favorite things about the FanDuel Sportsbook app. The user interface is incredibly clean. If you want to search for something specific that you want to bet on, like Jayden Daniels and the Heisman, just search Heisman and those bets will come up. So easy to use. Plus, there's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and so much more. So visit FanDuel.com/locked-on and kick off the NFL season. Again, that's FanDuel.com/locked-on, and new customers can get a $150 back in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. When you are hiring for your small business, you want to have as many top tier candidates as possible to interview. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. It is so important to have a quality pool of candidates to interview, and LinkedIn Jobs makes that process so much easier because it's not just like any other job board. LinkedIn has a vast network of more than a billion professionals, which makes it the best place to hire. Hiring is easy when you have that many quality candidates. So easy, in fact, that 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. That's it. You don't have to waste all of this time and all of this money interviewing candidates. No, because LinkedIn Jobs has all of the tools and resources for you. The process is intuitive, quick, and easy with LinkedIn. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That is linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. All right, y'all. Thanks again for making Locked On LSU your first listen every single day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, we're part of the Locked On Network, your team every single day. And some very exciting news with the Locked On Network. We've launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories in every single league with the local experts of Locked On. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. Also, you can just stick around after Locked On LSU because Locked On Sports Today will be coming up right after this. But let's continue along because regular season's wrapped up. Don't have a conference championship game to look forward to. You don't have a football playoff bid to look forward to, but you have the Heisman to look forward to. And the Heisman odds are heating up now that the regular season has concluded. And like I mentioned, it really is a two-horse race. Per the sports books, it's Jayden Daniels and it's Bo Nix. And I've checked. I don't see a massive shift in the Heisman odds. Of course, Jayden Daniels is still the favorite to win the Heisman at minus 110 odds, but Bo Nix is right behind him. I'm pulling up my FanDuel Sportsbook app as we speak. Bo Nix is right behind him with plus 120 odds. So that's the latest with the Heisman Trophy odds. But Where do things stand now? Let's look at stats for the season. Jayden Daniels, 236 for 327 for 3,812 yards. That's the third best of any quarterback in the country. And he's also averaging 11.7 yards per attempt. That's best in the country. Number one in the country. 40 touchdowns, number one in the country, and just 4 interceptions. And of course, as we know, when it comes to Jayden Daniels, yes, his passing stats are spectacular, but his rushing stats are unique. So incredible that they're unique. 135 rush attempts for 1,134 yards. That is number one of all quarterbacks, blows other quarterbacks out of the water. 10 touchdowns on the season, 10 rushing touchdowns on the season. That's good for 8.4 yards per carry. Now, Bo Nix on the season, 315 for 401, 3,906 yards, about 100 more, just shy of 100 more of Jayden Daniels. He does have the number one passing stats in the country. Averages 9.7 yards per attempt. That's best for number 5 in the country. 37 touchdowns. That's second best in the country behind Jayden Daniels. 42 interceptions on the season. Bo Nix has been doing a great job taking care of the football. This is where it's really things are completely different, and Jayden Daniels completely separates himself. Bo Nix, 47 rushes to Jayden Daniels, 134. Bo Nix, 159 rushing yards to Jayden Daniels, 1,134 rushing yards. Not even close. 6 rushing touchdowns to Jayden Daniels, 10 rushing touchdowns. So the rushing stats are really where things are completely set apart. Let's compare their weeks. Let's compare the weeks in week 12. So Bo Nix in Oregon played Oregon State. Of course, LSU played Texas A&M. Jayden Daniels, 16 of 24 for 235 yards, 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 11 rushes, 120 yards. Bo Nix threw the ball significantly more than Jayden Daniels did, 33 for 40 rather. 367 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 6 rushes for 31 yards, and a rushing touchdown. So Bo Nix, more passing yards, more passing attempts, about a third less than a third, about a quarter actually, the rushing yards that Jayden Daniels put up. But this is where it's really things where the context matters in this situation, because I think it's so easy for us as college football fans to look at just the numbers, but those numbers lack context. Because Jayden Daniels, while he had about 130 fewer passing yards, he also attempted 16 fewer passes, and he did it against the number 10 ranked defense in all of college football. Bo Nix, on the other hand, attempted that many more passes, did it against the 35th ranked total defense. That's a massive difference. Number 10 versus number 35. In fact, I think what we need to do is add context to all of these numbers, because in terms of passing numbers, really similar. The rushing numbers are what sets Jayden Daniels apart. The yards per attempt is what sets Jayden Daniels apart. The explosive plays. Jayden Daniels has more explosive plays than any other quarterback in all of college football. But let's add some context. And defense. Defenses that Bo Nix and Jayden Daniels both played last week. Let's look at the defenses that these two quarterbacks have played all season long. Because if we just want to look at top 25 teams, well, Jayden Daniels has significantly better stats against top 25 teams. But what about top 50 defenses? Jayden Daniels this season has put up the stats that he has against number 10 ranked Texas A&M defense, the 17th ranked Alabama defense, the number 20 ranked Florida State defense, the number 39 ranked Missouri defense, the number 42 ranked Mississippi State defense. I did not expect them to get that high. I'll tell you that. The number 47th ranked Arkansas defense. Number 10, number 17, number 20, number 39, number 42, number 47. Let's look at Bo Nix. I mentioned number 35, Oregon State. Number 16, Utah. That's it. Number 16, Utah, and number 35, Oregon State. The only top 50 defenses that Bo Nix has faced all season long. So let's talk about stats. Let's talk about numbers. Let's do that. But let's add some context. Jayden Daniels has been doing more impressive things than Bo Nix against higher quality opponents and better defenses. And it's not even close. Jayden Daniels also did achieve a really big milestone this weekend. He hit the 50 touchdown mark. I think we also need to add some context to that because only 4 other players in the history of college football have done that. But have they? We'll get into that on the other side after a couple of words from our sponsors. Prize Picks. I promise you, it is the most fun that I have had, winning up to 25 times my money because Prize Picks is the largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America. It's easy, it's exciting, and you can now get in on some basketball action now that basketball season is here. So you can now pick combo projections across football and basketball from the Specials League. It's a league created specifically for combo projections that includes 2 or more players from different sports or leagues. So for example, LeBron James and Travis Kelce at a 10.5 point combo of 3 points made and receptions. So you can do football, you can do basketball, you can even play alongside some of Prize Picks' favorite players like rapper Meek Mill, comedian Andrew Schultz. You can play with them under the Community Plays tab on the Promos tab of the app to view entries from some of the biggest names in the Prize Picks community every single week. It's a blast. I love it. So go to prizepicks.com/lockedoncollege and use code LOCKEDONCollege for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, that is prizepicks.com/lockedoncollege and use code LOCKEDONCollege for a first deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks, daily fantasy sports made easy. All right, y'all, let's get back into it. Rolling along here on Locked On LSU on a Tuesday edition of Locked On LSU. So on Saturday in Tiger Stadium, Jayden Daniels joined an elite fraternity of college quarterbacks, only a few quarterbacks in the history of the sport. When Jayden Daniels reached that 50 touchdown mark, he needed 4 touchdowns to get there. He threw for 4 touchdowns to get to the 50 touchdown mark. Now, only 4 other players in the history of college football have done that, have reached that 50 touchdown mark. Joe Burrow, Tim Tebow, Cam Newton, and Bryce Young in the 2021 season. What do all of those players have in common? Joe Burrow in 2019 won the Heisman. Tim Tebow in 2007 won the Heisman. You guessed it. Cam Newton in 2009 won the Heisman. Bryce Young, 2021. I think you know it by now. You know the answer. You're smart. Yep, you're correct. Won the Heisman. All 4 of those quarterbacks to reach that mark have won the Heisman. If you needed any more evidence for Jayden Daniels to be the Heisman Trophy winner this season, but what makes that even more impressive is the fact that Jayden Daniels did it in fewer games. Is the fact that if you really want to look at the stats, if you want to look at what those 4 quarterbacks did in 12 games, only Tim Tebow reached that 50 touchdown mark. Because Joe Burrow got to 65 because he played in a conference championship game and he played in a CFP semifinal game and he played in the national championship. Now, I love me some Joe Burrow, but through 12 games, he only accounted for 47 touchdowns. Tim Tebow in 2007. Now he played that team, that Florida team went 9-3, so they didn't play in the SEC championship game. They just played in that bowl game. But excluding that bowl game in 2007 when Florida played Michigan, when he had 4 touchdowns, that leaves Tim Tebow with 51 touchdowns through 12 games. Like I said, Tim Tebow would be the only quarterback through 12 games to account for 50 touchdowns. Cam Newton in the 2009 season, 12 games, excluding the SEC championship game and the national championship game, Cam Newton had 42 touchdowns. Bryce Young in 2021, excluding the SEC championship game, the CFP semifinal game, and the national championship, Bryce Young accounted for 42 touchdowns. So let's look at 12 games because we're only looking at 12 games for Jayden Daniels. Tim Tebow is the only other quarterback to ever account for that many touchdowns in that few games. If you needed more evidence as to why or how Jayden Daniels is so special, if you're a numbers person, if your eyes don't show you enough, let this be evidence enough for you that Jayden Daniels, his stats this season, whether it's rushing stats, passing stats, touchdowns, combination of all of those things, Jayden Daniels is up there amongst the college football elite. Jayden Daniels is up there with Heisman Trophy winners of the past. If that was enough for players in the past to win the Heisman Trophy, how could it not be enough now? We will continue to bang on the table for Jayden Daniels and his Heisman campaign because I truly, genuinely, in the bottom of my heart, don't see how anyone, Heisman Trophy voter or not, could not see that Jayden Daniels is the most deserving of this award because he is the best player in college football. We'll continue this conversation all week long. We'll continue this conversation next week. Heisman Trophy voters receive their ballots on Monday. I think it's a little, I'm not going to tell anyone what to do. I think it's a little silly if Heisman Trophy voters cast their ballots before the conference championship games on Saturday. I think what you can or what you don't do or can or can't do in a conference championship game should come into consideration here, which of course does put Jayden Daniels at a disadvantage since he will not be playing a conference championship game. But we'll continue to break this down. We'll continue to compare Jayden Daniels and Bo Nix. And I know we're all going to be watching that Pac-12 championship game with a keen eye to see what Bo Nix looks like. But coming up in tomorrow's edition of Locked on LSU, Brian Kelly was asked about the future of his coaching staff. What I made of what he said, what I think he means by what he said, and what I think should happen, what I think will happen. We'll get into that on tomorrow's edition of Locked on LSU, but stick around right here because coming up next, Locked on Sports Today, Locked on's official 24/7 national sports streaming show.